Hello and welcome. My name is Blake Davis. You are here in our very first of our technology and discipleship podcast. We didn't want to call this technology and AI podcast because I feel like that might lock us into only talking about one thing forever. But I will be very upfront to say we're mostly just going to talk about AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, large language models. But to introduce ourselves real quickly, we've got Scott on the line. He is my boss. I'll let him introduce myself. We can introduce ourselves, and we'll tell you what we're talking about today.
My least favorite title is boss, so that'll be the last time you hear that on these podcast episodes. Yes, thanks, Blake. My name is Scott Hughes. I am the Associate General Secretary here at Discipleship Ministries. I've been here 9 years in various roles. Really excited about what we're going to talk about. That's enough introduction for me.
Yeah. My name is Blake Davis. If you have taken any of our webinars over the past years and years, you've probably seen my face. And I am the Executive Director of Marketing and Delivery, which externally serves as sort of a communications and also marketing. And I am also the AI lead of the agency, which basically just means I nerded out about it so much that everybody got so sick of me talking about it that I said, Scott, one of us needs this title. Who wants it? And it's really Scott and I leading the charge to sort of talk about ministry context in relation to AI. So we're here really excited about it and gonna test out what this looks like to potentially have a short podcast from time to time. So we'll jump in here. We've talked about who we are. Why are we doing this, Scott?
For me, what I would hope is we can help ministry leaders learn how to use large language models to help them focus on discipleship, to relieve some of the administrative burdens that happen in ministry. I'm a bit of an AI optimist, and what that means for me is I want machines to do machine work and humans to do human work. That's my very simple answer to, we could do a whole long podcast just on this, but for me, that's my answer.
Yeah. I would say that my answer is a combination of that we are trying to figure out how to help local church leaders who often feel overwhelmed, overtaxed, overstretched to say, hey, there are tools to assist you. Yes. You can have help here. You do have a personal assistant at your fingertips for a very low or free cost. And the other side of that is that I truly believe that this technology is going to be the future. I think this is the new smartphone, where it is going to revolutionize industry. And to be really, a little bit 30,000 foot view here is I think it's going to revolutionize humanity and how we interact with each other. And I believe that we as Christians need to not shy away from it, but use it and utilize it not only to, an example I use in a presentation that I'm about to give in a week is if we as Christians had really utilized and become experts in social media, when the selling point for social media was it's going to bring us all together and we'll all be more connected, then perhaps we would have had a bit of influence on the direction that we went in, where now studies are showing that it's actually creating separation and people are spending having a lot of mental health issues from it. So how do we as Christians know about it, utilize it, and have a voice at the table to say, let's make sure we're using this right to benefit everybody? Because it's not going back into Pandora's box, I would say that. So that's where we are. But yeah, that would be my quick answer.
Well, and one of the things we're not going to talk about is ethics, but I do think we as Christians need to have a voice into something called artificial intelligence, and it opens up all sorts of questions about humanity, personhood, etc. Perhaps in a later episode, we'll have a chance to talk through some of those issues that are naturally going to rise to the surface. So what else are we not going to talk about today, or maybe even in other episodes?
Yeah. Today, ethics, the deep technical details. I feel like right now, I just want to say, here's what it is. Here's how it blew our minds. Consider from what you've seen how it might help you. And, so we're not going to get super detailed. We're not going to go deep into the history. We're not going to, educate you on a PhD of what it means to be artificial intelligence and machine learning. In future episodes, we do want to cover things like what does ethical and policy creation look like, which we have an advanced workshop that we do where actually that's a part of what we do. We talk about some really in-depth prompting. I teach you how to do sort of the frameworks of persona creation, and we then talk about how to build your ministry's guidelines and policy. But that's too much for this. Hours and hours of conversation. That's too much for this. So we will not talk about that. And we're going to not go deep into use cases, because right now this is just here's who we are, here's what we're doing. Let us just kind of show you what it can do and get your creative juices flowing, so that you can hopefully have some ideas that you can send us and say, tell me more about whatever stood out to you. So Scott, to talk about what we are going to talk about, though.
Well, I think mostly we're going to talk about just personally what got us into this, what helped us to say, yes, this is something we need to invest some time and energy into. I think we're going to talk pretty high level about what it is and its potential, why it could be of help in ministry at a very high level. Yeah.
So don't be overwhelmed, because this is we're just going to kind of share some high level things. We will get more nitty-gritty in future episodes, and we do have a webinar series that you can join and a advanced workshop you can join if you want to get real nitty-gritty, but this will just be an overview. So what we have now is sort of, I just want to share our mind-blowing experiences. So Scott, what was your point that you used this and you went, oh, I see what this can be, and I'm blown away by it?
Yeah, so for a couple of months, I played around with it a little bit here and there. And I think, like a lot of people, my first experience was thinking it was like Google, doing some search, asking it to do some content creation. And it was like, oh, that's pretty neat. That's pretty interesting. I think, learning some from YouTube, learned how to prompt a little better, got a little better responses, and went, oh, this is even more interesting. And then you and I did a training, and in that training, they had us use AI, or a large language model, more as a brainstorming partner. And when I got a much more expansive prompt, much more detailed, gave it more context, and then got a result, that's what blew my mind to go, oh, now I'm beginning to see how vast, how capable this tool really is. Now what? Now I was, for a while going, oh my, now I'm beginning to see how it can do all these different roles and things. Now what? And I think I'm probably still in that learning of, oh my gosh, it does this and it does that. And with GPTs, it can do this, or Claude projects, you can do that. And so, yeah, I'm still in this probably a year later going, oh my gosh, it does all these various things and roles. And that's probably where I am. Yeah. In a nutshell.
I love that. Yeah.
So for you,
it's hard. We were talking about this before we started recording, and it's hard to answer because I started using the technology about 2 years ago, and I spent months just nerding out about it and got real deep and learned all these different things. And I'll give an example of something very recent that has sort of had that eyes open moment. But the starting is essentially just the capabilities of its strategy, its reflection. And the first point that kind of blew my mind was this, I call it sort of the AI life hack of asking it to ask me questions. And that's what I think a lot of people don't instinctually do, is if you give it a prompt, a lot of times people say, I gave it a prompt, it was neat, but I wouldn't say it was super helpful. And then I say, well, did you ask it to clarify your task and ask you questions to make sure that it's doing what you want it to do? Yeah. And that expands a whole different realm. But
it does.
The second point, which is what I'll give a quick example of, is a reference-assisted generation, which is giving it information to narrow its scope of the task you want it to do. So I'm going to use some technical terms. Don't blank out here, because I'll show you, and then in future episodes or in our advanced course, if you want to join that, we do talk about that a bit more. But what I've done is I've created what's called a GPT, which is a custom chatbot. That's all you need to know about it for now. And I have fed it the user manual for every single one of my tools that I have in my garage.
Nerd alert.
My
Nerd
car,
alert.
my chainsaw, all of the things. I was using my chainsaw. The reason I did this, I was using my chainsaw, and a piece of it locked. And I don't know the first thing about chainsaws. I can build stuff and fix stuff, but I don't know. It's a chainsaw. I haven't learned all of that. So I said, well, shoot, I'll build a GPT for this. And I fed the user manual of all my tools in it. And I said, let me share my screen here so that you can see. Let's share the right one, if I can find it. This is what we should have prepared. Here we go. This is what I call it my garage. And I found a picture of the part. I couldn't find the original picture I took, but I found a picture similar. And if you look at this, see if I can click on it. This is what it is. This little piece right here jammed on my machine. And I took a picture just top down of this part. And I said, this part keeps jamming on my chainsaw. Now, I have the user manual of this chainsaw in here.
It already knows what chainsaw it is then.
It knows what chainsaw because I've already put all of that. I've said this is the tool that I own, so it knows how to reference the fact that that's probably the chainsaw I'm talking about, and it has the user's manual. I have no idea what this part is called. I know nothing about it. All I know is this thing is jamming. Because this is not a top-down picture, I'll just specify the part that the hand is touching in the image. And I'm that's all I'm going to say. And this is not pre-recorded. I'm doing this right here live.
He did not practice this, I can attest.
This part keeps jamming.
I'm interested to see what's going to come up.
And it says, the part your hand is touching in the image is the flywheel and that's the model of my chainsaw because it's referencing the user manual. If this part keeps jamming, here are a few potential issues and solutions to consider. And it gives me some potential issues. And then here's some steps to clean and inspect that part, which apparently is called the flywheel. And I can double click on that is the word that I would use. I can say, how can I make sure this doesn't happen in the future? And it will think about it, and it will give me, all right, well, regular maintenance, inspect it for damage, lubricate the parts, proper operation. And this helped me realize that I was pushing, to quote this, the chainsaw beyond its limits. I shouldn't be cutting, 6 different log slabs sideways without taking a break and letting it cool down. I don't know any of that. I don't know chainsaw maintenance. I don't know any of those things, but it does. And I've given it what's called reference assisted generation by using the user's manual. And that's when I went, oh, if you have a local church and you have a church van, you have a church bus.
I was thinking a copier.
Oh
man, the number of times. Yeah.
All of those PDFs are downloadable online, and you can give it to an AI assistant and a large language model and say, here's exactly the part
that's
messed up. Microphones.
Soundboards.
Because otherwise, you spend 20 minutes Googling to find exactly that. You're on forums going, okay, this person has a similar issue. It's done exactly the same one. Those days are in the past. Now you can get very specific user manual assisted instruction on how to deal with issues. So that was a mind blown to me.
That's really helpful. And we wanted to get into some specific use cases just to begin to get your mind open to the possibilities of what this can do. Let's talk briefly. When we say AI, what do we mean? Because it's a huge category. AI, from robots to all sorts of, we're talking really LLMs, large language models, platforms that use LLMs. Large language models are, if you think about on your phone, when you put in call Blake and it may suggest tomorrow or something like that, that predictive text, that's really what, in a much more expansive way, these large language models like ChatGPT, like Perplexity or Claude, Copilot, those are ones, Gemini, that you've probably heard of. That's what they're doing, is they're predicting the next word based on all sorts of algorithms and vectors and all kind of stuff I don't understand. That's what's going on in these, which is very different than using a Google search. And that's what most people typically come to this thinking, well, that's our experience, is, hey, I know how to use a Google search. This is very different. The underneath is very different. How to interact with it is very different. It's a chat bot. You go back and forth with it. That's what we're talking about. What would you add to that, Blake?
I think adding much more would get too technical. Just the example that I have used before is, you used Google. If you go to Google and you search for something, you're looking at human-generated posts and websites where you're trying to sort through and parse that information yourself. If you go to a large language model like ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever it is taking a vast data set and generating the results to try to be helpful to you. And that's the difference. And if you go, I have no idea what that means, what the heck, that is fine. Don't worry about that. We can unpack that more in future episodes. It's totally fine. Just know that you're looking at something that is tailored specifically for you from the vast database of information versus a Google search, which is people posting things specific to them, and you're trying to piece it together to make it helpful to you. So that's probably the simplest example. And if you want more information, we can send some, I'm putting together some show note options to say, if you want to go deeper, here's some great Wikipedia articles, etc. That's the very, very basics, the simplest answers. So I would say the next step, Scott, is some reflection for the audience listening, because we've hit our 15-minute mark and we were shooting for 10, so we'll start to wrap this up. But what would be some questions that you would say, just leave this with the listener? If you are watching this on YouTube or listening on your platform, if there's a place for comments, please leave a comment. But Scott, what would be the question from you?
How are you using it now? Well, where are you finding it helpful? One of the benefits we've had working with our advanced AI course participants is seeing their use cases, whether it's helping them to post on social media, helping them brainstorm sermon series suggestions, helping them to brainstorm analogies in their sermons, et cetera, et cetera. There's a vast long list of use cases. How are you using it today? What would you like for it to do beyond just doing your laundry, doing the dishes? Certainly that's what I would like it to do for me. What are the use cases you could foresee? Boy, if it did this, that would be really helpful. That's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's great. I would say for me, if you're not using it yet, and you're watching this, and we just showed you something that is an example of a couple different ways the technology could work, what does that make you think of? What does that make you go, oh, I wonder if it would help with this. I wonder if it would help with that. Now, what we'd like to do in a future episode is break down here's what it's good at, here's what's not good at, because I agree with you, Scott. I would love for it to be, have a camera in my refrigerator and be able to tell me everything I have on my phone from the supermarket and suggest 20 different recipes. And you can do that by taking a picture of what's in your refrigerator. But, it can't do my dishes yet, which that would be very helpful. I have 2 toddlers. If it could mop my floors every 2 days, that'd be amazing. There are Roombas that can help with that, but, I wouldn't say that is a fully automated thing yet. So we're getting there, but we will talk about that in the future. So what I would say is, first I'll plug our AI course. That's what I'm loading up on my computer here. Is if you go to our store.umcdiscipleship.org, you can also get there through our website, umcdiscipleship.org. You will see right now, upcoming in a couple weeks, we have 2 different options. We have our beginners webinar, which is a 2-part series, and then we have our advanced workshop, which is a 6-week program where we are all in a Slack channel workspace. We're giving activities, we're giving homework, and we do multiple deeper dives. If you buy lots, way cheaper. If you're interested in both, you need to get a discount if you buy both. But go look on our website, check that out. If you're coming to SCD in a couple weeks, I will actually be doing a presentation there as well on sort of a more like hour and 15 version of some of these things. But this is the introduction. So Scott, talk a little bit before we wrap up about, we're not making commitments right now of like, we're going to post every week, things like that. We have a lot on our plates right now, but we'd like to get the feedback and then start to create some regular scheduling for this. But what are the ideas that we have listed or for future episodes for diving in? You
mentioned the facts versus fiction, what it does, or I guess you mentioned limitations, what it does well, what it doesn't, but facts versus fiction. I hear lots of, well, it does this and it doesn't do that. And so we'll talk about that. How to use it as an assistant, I think, is a helpful one. How to use it as a brainstorming partner. How to use it to boost your productivity. I mean, I don't want to make productivity an idol, but it can help with, I've got this email, I'm not sure how to respond. It can do a great job of helping you to make that happen much quicker. How to talk to your church about AI. Because there are these myths, well, I was just going to write your sermon for you and you're going to have every Sunday off. We did hear that as a comment.
I've heard it.
Not true. How do you talk to your church about how you might use this and have some guidelines to talk through how it'll be used, how it won't be used, where it will assist, where it won't assist? That's we've got lots. That's a few, I think, of where we're headed.
That's great. I would say let's wrap this up. But first, the last thing I would ask you, Scott, is it just occurred to me. It's not in our plan here. Those listening right now that you just said, you just pointed to some of the concerns and fears. What would you say to the people listening to this going, I'm afraid that it's going to blank, take my job, make my pastor lazy? That's something we've heard before. What would be your response to that, just as a quick end cap, so that people are leaving this going, oh, okay, maybe that's not as big a concern quite yet.
Right now, the versions that we have, I don't think are replacing anyone. You'll hear news stories about that. I think sometimes companies use that as an excuse. Right now, we've got something that's very capable, very good, but not replacement level in 99% of the cases. It is a tool of augmentation. It's a tool of supplement. It is not a replacement tool where we're at now. Now, where we're going to be in a year, 2, 10 years from now, I don't know. I am an optimist in terms of I think it can do great things. I'm also an optimist in it's going to create jobs. It's going to help us do more human things. That's where I'm at. That's just me. I'm not telling you where to be. And I hope we'll carry on this conversation going forward because we don't know where it's going. Because it is continuing to grow and get better every single day. So how can we use this to make ministry more human, more discipleship, more care, more interactive, more personal? That's what I hope will happen out of this, not a bot's going to write your sermon or bot's going to do all your emails. That's not what we're about, for sure. And I hope you'll join us in this ride of what can it do? What can it help me do better? Think in terms of quality. What can it qualitatively help me do better? And what can it help me do faster so that I can do more of the human work? That was a longer answer than I meant. Sorry.
That's great. That's fine. I completely agree. I would just summarize it by saying that some courses that Scott and I took, the phrasing they use, which I agreed with, is this is not meant to, and you should never treat it as if it's meant to replace. It is there to augment. It is there to, what was the term? They said augment, but it was do not replace, enhance. And that's really what you're looking to do. Is this is a tool that can really help enhance your ability to increase productivity and strategy. And, instead of Googling, trying to find the part for this chainsaw, it augmented, it enhanced. All I had to do was say, I don't know what this is. What do I do? And that saved me the time that I would have taken watching YouTube videos, Googling, whatever it may be. It did not replace me. I still have to replace that part, but it enhanced my ability to get there so much faster. So approach it that way. Do not be concerned. There will always be the human element. There will always be a need for us as humans, especially us as spiritual and religious leaders to have that
God's
opinion.
image. Yeah.
Even more so, in my opinion. So do not fear. We are here to try to help give perspectives on things and train you in ways to use it. We're not the only ones. There's lots of people out there, so it doesn't have to be us. But we appreciate you listening. Again, if you're interested in our more advanced, our longer workshop and webinars, please reach out. My name is Blake Davis, and we're glad you're here. That's about it. Yeah,
we look forward to seeing you in the future episodes. Make a comment. How are you using it now?
Appreciate it. Well, have a good one. We'll see you next time.